macro here. Not going to be able to support all of these buildings on one base, I don't think. He did cancel that command center, it looks like, in favor of this factory, and it is getting a tech lab, so we'll probably see siege again this game. This probe looks like he's peeking out here, taking another scout, making sure there's no hidden. And again, Xandixs going with this very heavy zealot build. And yeah, getting that charge. Hopefully going to be able to chrono boost it pretty soon here. He's got a lot of energy to spend on that Nexus. He does chrono boost it out, and even more zealots coming into play here. I think 1 or 2 banshees could easily clean up this mess, but I don't think I've seen Canadian go starport yet. Even another factory going down, and these barracks are all finally producing, but no siege tank because that gas is low. Looks like that early assimilator did do enough damage to hold off those siege tanks for now. Another thing that could easily counter these zealots is maybe even Hellions with that pre-infernal igniter, and a hidden expansion going down by Xandixs here in this corner. Very tricky stuff. And both players macroing up fairly well now. Canadian finally catching up on those production buildings. And we have 4 warp gates here on the one base for Xandixs, getting a Templar archive. So it'll be great for storming these Marines, but I'm not sure how well it's going to do against these Marauders here. They are actually fairly resistant to the storm, and a command center now being built for the 2nd time by Canadian. This one's probably going to push out. And getting some assimilators here before that Nexus is even finished. He's really going to need to transfer some probes here very shortly if he wants this natural to be saturated. Warping in even more zealots. So this is just a huge zealot army. Got 1 sentry here. I'd really like to see a couple more sentries so that when a push happens, you can force field off this ramp, you can split his army in half and do some very serious damage, especially if you have some zealots tucked away here. You can force field the Marines and Marauders right here, charge from the back, and take out those tanks real easily. But it looks like for now he's just going to spread his forces out. And this natural is up, finally making some probes. No transfer, it looks like, from Xandixs. And a barracks going out to scout, it looks like, maybe even proxy, but I can't imagine a proxy barracks this late in the game being useful against Protoss, especially since they love to put these zealots spread out and drop these pylons all over the place. So I imagine this is going to be for scouting purposes, and we'll probably see this army move out very shortly here. Yeah, siege tech is finished. We do have a tech lab here doing nothing at the moment. Looks like that's where the barracks lifted off from, and this is a very large army compared to this massive zealot. Finally got a high Templar out and a Robo facility very late coming into play here, but Psystorm is going to finish, so I think he'll be able to destroy those Marines pretty easily. And okay, a 2nd sentry coming in, and 2 high Templar at the moment, and this just giant ball of bio that we saw last game Canadian is moving out with. Meanwhile, these zealots are tucked away here, so he might be able to get a very nice surround if they come out right to this cliff here. And once again, this Nexus just not producing probes at the natural, and meanwhile the main even is not completely saturated compared to what Canadian had going on. Looks like he did a huge transfer there, so it looks like Canadian's going to be pulling ahead in the macro this game. If he can keep this force alive, he should be in really good shape for defense, and he should be able to just out macro Xandixs. It's going to be real hard for him to catch up, but this is a fairly large amount of zealots. If he can get these down here, if he can spot this and get these zealots down here, he should be okay. And now the siege tanks are going down. You can see Canadian actually using this barracks to get sight of the high ground, and now he sees, okay, it is safe to move up. And even, pulling these stalkers into range of the siege tanks, they get hit pretty hard, and then these guys all stimming and running up to the cliff site here. Looks like he's going to make a final push. Stalkers coming in the front, Storm going down, hitting those Marauders and Marines. Massive damage. And these zealots coming in, charging here, hitting these tanks real hard, getting a pretty nice surround, taking out... Let's see if he gets all the siege tanks. He might. No. Wow, Canadian actually doing a great job there. And Xandixs in a last-ditch attempt, warping in some zealots to try and get another surround going on. and this Archon being warped in here. But it looks like Canadian's seeing all this, and he's going to go ahead and push as hard as he can, destroying that Archon. One last push. He really needs to snipe these pylons. Very nicely done. Get these warp gates underpowered as quickly as possible and destroy Xandixs' supply. Looks like Canadian is still running off 2 base. And, ooh, destroying that Templar Archive before the tech is going to finish. Not being able to warp in any more units, it looks like. Xandixs is at 500, 600 minerals, and 600 gas. Not producing anything anymore. I wonder if he's gone AFK or something. A bunch of high Templars just sitting in this corner here. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get off enough Psi Storms. Will he get it in time? Ooh, I think it was just a little bit too late. Did a lot of damage to that army, but I think if he Psi Stormed while they were on this ramp with maybe a force field here and here, he would have been able to clean that up. But unfortunately, yeah, even coming in with the probes here, trying to get us around. Wow. Actually cleaning up that army with his probes, but he is very far behind. And this huge, yes, second army, even a Raven in there. I think Canadian is going to be able to mop this up really well. A reactor going down on this barracks that was used for scouting earlier, pulling in these Reapers that were in play earlier in the game. And yeah, this is just a nice, big, juicy army. I think he'll be able to deal with it just fine. And Xandixs does call GG. So Canadian is moving on to the finals. Good game, Xandixs. We'll see you in the bronze match. And we have the next game of semifinals coming up.